Welcome to Plugged In. Tonight on the show, Scott McLachlan reports on vehicle theft. Chris Soares checks out the martial arts. Clara Thomas reviews the book Tammer and Mem. And after this, Christopher Doty gives us this week's headlines. Christopher Doty of the Age Dispatch grabs our attention with a couple of headlines making news this week.
In the headlines this week, for the third time in 6 years, there has been a train derailment outside of Kerwood. It snarled rail traffic, knocked down power lines, closed one local road all weekend long. That's the bad news. The good news is that the Watford fire chief says it could have been much, much worse. Speaking of good news, bad news, there's good news on the municipal restructuring scene. We have a map showing how Middlesex County may be divided up into 4 areas. The bad news is that local politicians don't like the plan one bit. They don't like the map, they don't like the way it's being sped through, and they don't like the lack of detail about the financial resources that will accompany it. Strathroy Middlesex General Hospital has received a 6.2% reduction in its provincial grant for this year, but the hospital says it's okay, they were budgeting for this. However, other area hospitals weren't as lucky. Read about a local man who made a great sacrifice. He donated one of his kidneys to help his sister who is on dialysis. They're both doing very, very well. We have our roster of area correspondents, some great sports photos, and speaking of sports photos, if you're interested in starting a hockey pool around the office on the Strathroy Junior B Rockets, check out Glenn Houghton's column on the back page. He judges their chances for the playoffs this year. From the Strathroy Age Dispatch, this is Christopher Doty for Puck In, Plugged In.
For more information on these headlines, pick up your copy of this week's Age Dispatch. Spring is just around the corner, and as the winter weather warms up, so do the instances of vehicle break-ins. Scott McLachlan has more.
Your car, that sacred object of mobility. Thieves will prey upon a vehicle with a stealth and quickness that will easily go undetected until you realize something is missing. The perpetrators may get away with stealing your stereo system, but if they can drive, it could be your car. In 1996 alone, there were a grand total of 190 reported thefts from vehicles in Strathroy, while on top of this, a large number will go unreported. Constable Bob McIlmoyle gives us some insight into this problem and some important tips to safeguard your vehicle.
Well, they've got to get rid of the old adage that it can't happen here or it doesn't happen here, because it does. What they have to start doing is, if they have a garage, make use of it, put their vehicle inside the garage. They should be locking their vehicles. What they should be doing is going through their vehicles each and every night and removing the briefcases, removing the cameras, removing the CDs, the tapes, the loose coinage that they have in the little center console. Anything that would invite a thief to come into their vehicle.
Another factor when looking at this type of crime is the damage that can occur during vehicle break-ins.
Usually they'll go for an unlocked car, but if they see something of particular interest, they've been known to smash a window out, and that causes damage. The average cost of a window would probably be in the rough range of $100. If they're after a stereo, we've seen them literally tear a dash apart to get at the stereo, particularly if it's one of the fancier ones.
Anything in your automobile is at risk. A few of the common items stolen are cellular phones, car stereos, tapes or CDs, luggage, and briefcases. Crime-proofing your vehicle is your key to successfully deterring thieves. Follow the guidelines along with some common sense so you can help the numbers drop and the headaches not to rise. This is Scott McLachlan for Plugged In.
We'll be right back with Chris Soares and the sports after this break. One of the most uprising hobbies these days are martial arts classes. Plugged In sports reporter Chris Soares took in some Taekwondo just for kicks.
If you're interested in doing what I just did, well, Strathroy has its own Taekwondo club, Mondays and Thursday nights at Southdale Public School. Think we should take a look? I think so. Let's take a look.
Strathroy Taekwondo has served the community of Strathroy for about 14 years now. It's a non-profit foundation, so student fees are kept at a low value. The club raises money through bingos and other fundraisers, which is used for space rental, equipment purchases, and club events, as well as donations in support of other organizations. Senior Master Instructor for the whole organization and 4th Dan Black Belt Doug Gagel explains what all goes on in a regular class.
We do conditioning exercises, warm-ups, basic movements, kicks, punches, blocks. Then we do what's called pattern or kata to teach concentration and focus and balance. And then we do sparring, which means under controlled situation you learn how to hit and deflect and block and score points. And then we also have self-defense techniques so that if you are in a confrontation where somebody grabs you or tries to control you, you can defend yourself.
There are approximately 38 people involved in the club at this time, but it is growing. Classes are held Mondays and Thursdays at Southdale Public School. A relatively new martial art has been introduced, Aikido, developed by the organization. Gagel explains.
Aikido is an amalgamation of Taekwondo and Aikido techniques. What happened was that we've done Taekwondo for about 20 years, and one of our instructors from London, Mr. Pekovic, has a black belt in Aikido, so we've incorporated some of the grappling and defensive techniques from Aikido into the Taekwondo, because the Aikido itself has no punching, striking, kicking, or sparring techniques at all. It is strictly a defensive art, and Taekwondo had none of those very subtle kind of wrist locks and controlling techniques that you can use against stronger and larger opponents. So we've combined the two, and this is now our own art. So we figure we've got a pretty well-rounded curriculum. I think we'll teach just about everything now.
If you're interested in following up some classes in the Taekwondo art, please call 246-1663 for more information. Looking ahead in other sports in the Strathroy area, the Strathroy Rockets Junior B team finishes off their regular season this week. Friday the 14th, they travel to St. Thomas to take on the Stars. Big game for the Stars. They're trying to hold on to second place in the East Division. And Sunday, Strathroy plays their last home game as they host the Elmer Aces, and another big game for Elmer. They're trying to get into the third spot. They don't want to play Strathroy in the first round of the playoffs. And stay with us on Plugged In for the next few weeks, as I'll have extensive Rockets playoff coverage for you so you can keep up to date on the Strathroy Junior B team. For Plugged In, this is Chris Soares.
What do India and mother and daughter relationships have in common? Clara Thomas tells us in this week's book review.
Tamarind Mem by Anita Rao Badami. I called my mother every Sunday from the silence of my basement apartment, reluctant to tell her how I yearned to get away from this freezing cold city where even the traffic sounds were muffled by the snow. Well, who asked you to go, Ma would have demanded. Did somebody tie your hands behind your back and say, go to that Calgary North Pole place? So instead I said, Ma, there are mountains in the distance, all covered with snow. I can see them gleaming like silver cones in the sunlight when I go outside my apartment. Kamini comes to Canada from India to take graduate work in chemistry. She takes a creative writing course at the University of Calgary and decides to write a novel. The whole novel is about her uneasy relationship with her mother back in India, and her mother's relationship, in her turn, with her mother in India. It's a wonderful, wonderful picture of a very different culture from our own, and of one young woman's struggle to assimilate into our culture. Tamarind is the name of a tree with bitter fruit, an Indian tree, and Mem is, of course, this short form for Mem Sahib, as a married lady is called in India. This is Clara Thomas for Plugged In.
Coming up next, what's up in Strathroy after this break?
Every time you waste energy, you take it out on the environment. Start saving energy today. It's not that hard to do. Be good to the environment. Use energy wisely.
If you want to catch a movie this weekend, the moving picture will be playing Beverly Hills Ninja in Cinema 1 at 7 and 9:20 p.m. Romeo and Juliet will be playing in Cinema 2 at 7:10, followed by Mars Attacks at 9:30. The matinees this Saturday and Sunday are Beverly Hills Ninja and Mars Attacks starting at 2 p.m. On Tuesday, February 18th, the second annual Strathroy Good Life Aerobathon will begin at 7 p.m. at the Colburn Street Public School. All proceeds will go to the Strathroy Middlesex General Hospital Foundation. Registration is at 6:40. The Strathroy Horticultural Society holds their next meeting on Wednesday, February 19th, starting at 8 p.m. The location will be at the Strathroy Public Library, and everyone is welcome. The Strathroy Minor Soccer Association are holding registration days on February 21st, 22nd, 28th, and March 1st. To sign up, go to the Strathroy Minor Soccer Building located on York Street or phone 245-9643 for more information. Coming up this Sunday on Rogers Community 12, Bethel Baptist Church will be shown at noon, followed by Encontro Cum Deus at 1 p.m. If you want to know what's happening locally, tune into Strathroy Town Council on Monday live at 7 p.m. And don't forget to tune in to the Lions TV Bingo every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. on Rogers Community 12. Thank you for joining us this evening on Plugged In. This show can be seen every Wednesday night at 6:45. If you have any story ideas or comments about the show, please give us a call now at 245-6261. I'm Tammy Johnson, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.